Chesney's recruiting staff has addressed every need for UCLA during this transfer portal season with this latest batch of recruits.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson, the Oxheimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. What we're talking about today, UCLA gets a huge donation from a late UCLA Bruin and some college football news that would change the game significantly. 2, we're talking UCLA men's and women's hoops, bracketology for one, and jumping in the rankings for the other. But we have to lead with this. You blink, and all of a sudden UCLA is now at close to 40 commitments. 40 in the transfer portal. Bob Chesney's crew, Bob Chesney does not sleep. His recruiting staff doesn't sleep. The talent identification doesn't sleep. Personnel, everything doesn't sleep. Because the Bruins have made significant additions to their roster in 2026. And what I mean by what they've added has addressed every need. Even their latest commit, Oklahoma's Sammy Omosigho, comes in, a guy that could start day one at UCLA as a linebacker, or at least compete for a lot more reps than what he was playing for a playoff team at Oklahoma. Sammy Omosigho, these are some of the numbers for one of Oklahoma's rotational linebackers. In 2025, 50 tackles, couple of sacks, 3 pass deflections. In 2024, 4.5 tackles for loss, or 5 tackles for loss in 2024, 4.5 tackles for loss in 2025. So that's a strong linebacker to go with a potential Notre Dame start. Well, I don't know about starter, but you bring in Anthony Saka. He has some potential. He was a Notre Dame recruit. You bring in Drew Spinagati, who knows the system of Colin Hitchler. The Bruins are adding and building, and they've addressed some needs at the linebacker position after losing their 2 most utilized linebackers last year, John Vaughns and Isaiah Chisholm. So I like what the Bruins get in Omosigho. Wasn't utilized as much during the Oklahoma playoff loss to Alabama. Comes to UCLA, a strong defense that's physical, a guy that in limited time made plays with the Sooners, a chance to explode as a UCLA Bruin. And that's not the only one. UCLA continues, and I mean continues to build up front. This is what else they brought in. UCLA gets Maxwell Roy. Roy is a 6'3" defensive tackle who just spent his freshman campaign at Ohio State. Joined the team in June of 2025. And if you're looking at Ohio State, preseason number 1, a team that went to the playoff number 2, yes, they underperformed there, but that's a team that's a solid program as the defending champs as of this moment. Maxwell Roy comes in. 24/7 Sports listed Maxwell Roy as a part of their freaks list, which means they're just super uber athletic and can do just about everything, all right? It's a compliment in every way of the term to be on the freaks list for 24/7 Sports. And UCLA's nabbing that guy out of the portal to come fortify the Bruins up front defensively. A D-line that was bad in tackles for loss, bad in sacks, last I should say in both those categories in the FBS. And UCLA has done everything to address it with edge presence on the outside, 2 JMU guys in Gobera and Sahir West. And now up the middle, the Bruins are bringing that in with the defensive tackles. And if you continue to look at what UCLA is doing, bringing in another tackle, although on the offensive line, you bring in Mac Indestad, if I'm saying his name correctly, from Eastern Michigan. And if you know anything about anybody on the line from Eastern Michigan, that's probably Max Crosby in the NFL because he's dominating for the Raiders. Nobody else on the Raiders is good. I can say that because I'm a Raiders fan. In the meantime, a tackle, Mac Indestad, who hasn't seen a lot of action these last couple of years, redshirted in 22, no action in 23, limited starts in 24 and 25. You're like, why would UCLA want a guy like that? Let me tell you about the intangibles. A 3-star in the transfer rankings and a guy who could very well be a contributing backup or on the depth chart as the 1 or 2. 6'8", 315-pounder for a Bruins as a tackle option. As an option, 6'8", 315 pounds. Even the starters or the guys who can contribute, who you're going up against practice, are going to resemble that of what UCLA will face week in and week out in Big Ten play. So what you're going up against practice is that same size, that same big-bodied O-lineman that you're going to have to get around when you're going against whoever the Bruins are going against in Big Ten play, whether it's Wisconsin's, right, or the Illinois of the world, whether you're going against the USC's, whatever it is, the Bruins are building and continuing to add in the transfer portal. Now, there were a couple more ads in the portal. Let's go over those really quickly. UCLA got a backup punter, Curtis Garand. The Bruins just are like, all right, we need solid ads at each and every position. So you have Tyson Ford, who is also another one of those guys who the Bruins added from Cal. Somebody who has bounced around, battled through injuries in his first couple of years of college football, and now the Bruins are hoping that Tyson Ford can come and make a big impact to UCLA. Another defensive tackle, 6'5", 300 pounds, started his career at Notre Dame, went to Cal after not playing the first couple of years at Notre Dame, 2 games in 2 years, couple of injuries in year 1 at Cal, not too much here in this season, but the hope is that the connection with Vic Suoto, UCLA's one of their newest incoming staffers, this one from Cal, who was a linebackers coach at Cal, comes to UCLA. You bring in Ford, and you're like, dude, this is a guy who, if he stays healthy, has potential to start for the Bruins. So the UCLA Bruins recruiting staff is swinging high on upside, finding high school talent who didn't play in the last year, and then also find proven production. All right. So you're getting beasts in the portal who, at least if they're backups, can come in and play right away. Guys who, if they're healthy, can immediately contribute, and just improving the athleticism, dramatically improving the physicality of this team, and hopefully together as a unit can build a culture, the heart, and tenacity that UCLA's football culture has been lacking for years. If they can come together and play for something bigger than themselves, bigger than the paycheck, bigger than the NIL, but come together and realize this is something special, and you're playing for a winning coach, a winner, then UCLA can be something special. Because that on-3 top 10 class is continuing to build, and with what they're bringing in talent-wise, just even though it might not say in the stars, it might not say in, the talent ratings every day, day in and day out, the Bruins have significantly improved heading into the 2026 season. And that's what we're looking for with UCLA. Improvement in depth, physicality, playmakers, some upside, and guys who have proven it at the D1 FBS level. The Bruins are doing that at every single position. Every position they're doing that. Whether it's the backup punters, whether it's potential starting D tackles, linebackers who are contributors on playoff teams. That's just the latest swing of UCLA recruits, and they've done that at every position, including getting 2 playoff playmakers from the playoff JMU team who started at running back in Wayne Knight and Sahir West, guys who could have been recruited elsewhere. The Bruins like, well, we'd like you to come here, and the Bruins won those recruiting battles. Says a lot for what UCLA's been able to do in a week plus. You blink, they're probably going to be at 50. I don't know where they're going next. Yet UCLA continues to make this team impressive here in the winter. Let's see how they develop in spring, how they develop in the summer, and what they come together as in the fall in the 2026 season. Next, we'll talk about what the teams currently developing are, men's and women's basketball. One team's last 4 in, the other one is dominating as they move up in the rankings. We'll talk about that next, and was it deserved for both those spots on Locked On UCLA. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine, refresh your space, spend more time at home. And you're like, whoa, I might as well love the way it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From the bedding to the mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair is everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or simply upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what you want for your style, your budget, and you can find the pieces that match your style. You don't even need to spend a fortune to match your style. And shopping's easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Fair.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Cruising on here with Locked On UCLA, the Bruins continue to make things happen. All right. But we're looking more at men's and women's basketball. Let's start with the women's basketball recap of last weekend. The Bruins took down Nebraska, a team who hovers around the top 25. In Lincoln, UCLA leading after each and every quarter, outscoring Nebraska, outpacing them by 6, by 12, by 20 by the time they're in the fourth quarter, for a game that Nebraska was one of the longer undefeated teams this season before they lost earlier this year in Big Ten play. They're 3-3 while being 11-0 outside of Big Ten play. That's how tough this conference is. And yet UCLA is going on the road to beat Nebraska by 20 on the road where there's 6,000 fans still. Decent sized fan base to be like, all right, we're just going to go kick your butt. This game was a reminder as to why Lauren Betts is the projected number 1, number 2 pick in the WNBA draft. I'm not sure what's going on there, but wherever she goes and plays professionally, she is a top prospect and could, if she was on a team that needed her to put up 25 and 15 with 3 blocks a game, she would do that. In this game against Nebraska, though, without being overused in 28 minutes, 18 points on better than 50% shooting, 10 rebounds, so that means double-double. You bring in what she was able to do defensively. She had an assist, cool. 4 blocks, 5 steals. She almost had a triple-double based off of points, rebounds, and the blocks and steals together. So her, as the reigning National Defensive Player of the Year, is always a weapon in the paint. If UCLA is getting beat on the wings, she is always solid in the paint to make sure nobody gets around her. She blocks shots in the paint. Outstanding. Does it all. 5 steals is ridiculous for Lauren Betts. Absolutely ridiculous. And it helps that her entire starting 5 surrounding her also can score double figures on a given night, usually 12 or more points. Case in point, Gianna Neepkins comes in, 6 assists, 16 points, 50% from 3. All right. This is a team that's hurting for true 3-point shooters with Tamia Gardner still recovering from injury. So Gardner's still out. You bring in Neepkins, who was able to dish, 6 assists to 1 turnover, good ratio, and she gets her own buckets, second on the team in points scored in this game. All right. Great shooter, great disher, and the Bruins are very, very lucky to have won the portal recruitment for Neepkins. Charlize Ledger-Walker. She was actually the 3-point sniper in this game. Only 14 points, but outdid Neepkins by 1 more 3 made on 1 less attempt. 4 or 5, 4 made threes, had 4 assists, 7 rebounds, a stat stuffer with a block and a steal as well. Charlize Ledger-Walker, on any other team in the country, if she wanted to go have gaudy stats, she would have played for somebody else other than UCLA. But she's playing for a chance to win a championship. And she had to wait a year to do so after painfully getting hurt at UCLA single-handedly through 2.5 quarters, knocking off UCLA a couple years ago, almost individually at Washington State, comes in, waits the year recovering from injury, and the Bruins are their top 5 elite. And Ledger-Walker, when she's on fire and figures it out and is red hot, proves it yet again. Kiki Rice. Not one of the best Kiki Rice shooting games, but 12 points, 3 steals, 3 assists, 6 rebounds. She is just an active player. Each and every game comes in and can just get the ball rolling. Although she does have these poor shooting nights for a slasher, a player who generally plays a little closer to the rim in scoring, although she has improved her 3-point stroke over the years at UCLA, makes her a dynamic option in upcoming professional prospects for her. The better she plays, the more dynamic she is, the better she feeds off of Charlize Ledger-Walker. UCLA will be better off for it when they potentially, hopefully, rematch against UConn in a later part of the tournament, when they face off against Texas, if they're going to get to that point. All right. Now you look at Gabriela Jaquez, who at one point was leading the Big Ten in 3-point shooting. It's kind of cooled off as of late, but that doesn't take away from her dominance. She can go put in 12 points, 11 points, be effective defensively, offensively, rebounding the basketball. Her role can shift wherever she's needed to be, and she'll put in 100% effort. So Jaquez, Only 6 shots, 32 minutes, most of any Bruin on the court, most of any in the starting five by a long shot. I wonder if she's going to continue the hot shooting when the team needs her to shoot. She's not designed on this team to be the elite shooter. At best, she's maybe the fourth or fifth option. The way she shot this year, much better than that, though. We'll see how that translates to later in the season. And here's the thing we've been waiting to see. While Dugalich didn't have any scoring, couple of turnovers, one of her worst games this year in her super senior campaign, we're looking at Sienna Betts. Betts played her most minutes this year, half the game, 20 minutes. First time this season in her abbreviated freshman campaign, she's taken 10 or more shots. Third time, she's had 10 or more points, 12 points, her career high, close to it. 6 rebounds. That's her highest rebounding game. So the good, scoring more, taking more shots, getting more rebounds. Effective rebounder. Turnover numbers, 9 turnovers in the last 3 games, all against Big Ten competition. So when you see her getting big numbers in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, you might say, all right, next year All-American. It's how she plays against the best teams in the tournament in Big Ten play that will determine whether UCLA is going to go farther or get upset a little bit earlier. All right, if they want to win a championship, Sienna Betts' ability to impact the game on 1 to 5 possessions that swing the momentum, that is what her role is this year. She isn't the need to be the All-American next to her sister. It's those 1 to 5 possessions. What do I mean by those 5 possessions? Sienna Betts in this game against Nebraska, 5 offensive rebounds of her 6 rebounds. So if she's playing alongside her sister and her sister's pulling up for the mid-range, is working a little bit further away from the basket, you have a clear-cut number 1 rebounder besides Lauren on the floor to go get the ball and extend possessions, second and third chance points. Whether she can clean it up and put it back, or if she's getting her own misses, that's another thing too. It's just, can Sienna Betts be on the court and give UCLA an extra rebounder? Because it's one thing if it's a Dugalich or if it's the other guards, but Betts gives the Bruins another true potential center if she's on the floor with Lauren, or if she's in a second 5 unit, a bench unit. She can get boards and keep these large leads, keep opponents at bay. Because UCLA's bench is very short. Yes, they can put out Muse, they can put out Bilic, but they don't really want to go that deep in the bench if they don't have to. Sienna Betts is one of those trusted options at the moment, and their only true center, power 4, if she's coming off the bench. So great to see her getting more opportunities, growing. I would just love to see her be more of a weapon defensively if possible, sitting a couple more blocks, even though Lauren Betts is stealing all those options. And for Sienna, shoot a little more efficiently, but she needs to get shots up, because if she gets opportunities, get the flow, get the rhythm of the game going before March comes, huge. All right. UCLA's next big game is at Minnesota. I expect them to win big, but that's the case in almost every game. UCLA, though, in the poll, has jumped up to number 3. So they leapfrog Texas, because Texas got upset by LSU. So interesting upset. That's important because 1, UCLA and Texas each have a loss. 2, UCLA and Texas are battling for that 3rd or second 1 seed. South Carolina also has a loss to Texas. So the real question is, whoever is in that 2-3 spot, you avoid UConn until the national championship, which in most scenarios you want to avoid. You want to be in that 1 seed. Don't play one of these teams in a Sweet 16, Elite 8. You want to hold off until you play in the Final Four. And remember, Final Four this year is on the western part of the United States. All right? You want to play that game closer to home than going to play a little further away. And those UConn fans travel. Those South Carolina fans, Texas fans travel. So the UCLA fans, we got to show up and support when that team gets ready to roll later in the season. So UCLA moves up. Now to kind of pivot back to the men's team for this end part of segment 2, Joe Lunardi of ESPN, the legendary bracketologist, has UCLA as a last 4 in. All right, so you go from number 3 team in the country on the women's side to last 4 in. UCLA, ironically, right now, in this made-up hypothetical bracket, would be playing in San Diego in the first round, the most updated bracketology, as a 12 seed, which is even lower than the 11 seed they were as a first 4 team in 2021. Ironically, that was also the last time they made the Final Four. Funny enough for Donovan Den, this hypothetical midseason matchup for March would involve them playing New Mexico. So, UCLA, New Mexico, hypothetical first round matchup of the first four. If they win, winner would go to San Diego. So they play that first game at Dayton. I think it would be very funny. You'd see a lot of jokes, I would think, from the New Mexico side. You go to UCLA and you still end up in the same game against us. New coach, new everything. That's not what I'm pushing, but that's what the jokes would be. Interestingly enough, if you upset Clemson, which I think would actually be a decent matchup for UCLA, you'd play the winner of Texas Tech, UC Irvine in this hypothetical battle. If Irvine wins that, that'd be a rematch of a preseason exhibition game. UCLA won by 30, right? You're one seed higher than a team you beat by 30 in an exhibition game. It's ridiculous to how the Bruins have played right now, but health, lack of continuity, and just the inconsistency of this men's team have driven all this crazy, pushed Mick Cronin onto the hot seat if he can't make anything happen in March, because he's got a huge extension. All of us will shut up if the Bruins at least get to an Elite Eight. If he goes further than that, then his job is safe for a couple of years. It's just, can we make the regular season more exciting instead of sometimes post-game tirades, which are fun sometimes, just not every 2 weeks. UCLA, the unique thing though, the number one overall seed is Arizona. We're not that far removed from this team leading by 8 in the second half against Arizona. I was crashing out in my apartment, freaking out that they didn't win that game, that they controlled, played well, and played Mick Cronin-like basketball against an Arizona team led by freshmen. The freshmen didn't do anything. It was the veterans coming off the bench. It was Del Orso hitting ridiculous threes, game in, game again and again and again. And if UCLA used Jamerson, as they're trying to do now, then I think UCLA wins that game if they don't try to ride Booker as much in the second half when they needed boards and defense. I wish they could have. They were back and forth in the final minutes against the number one overall team. That's what makes this game so puzzling. That's what makes this team so puzzling. They're so close and yet so far. They're like designed better to give you a matchup nightmare in the postseason than they are to go through the gauntlet of traveling throughout the Midwest to find every little tough airport, every tough fan base. Where they go on a neutral court, Mick Cronin might coach them up. They'll play scrappy defense, and they'll frustrate us with a heartbreak at the end. That seems what this is destined for, as they potentially overachieve in March while they underachieve over the next 2 months. But if they're only a first four team now, they got a lot of work to do. That means this Penn State-Ohio State road trip, one, can prove UCLA can win outside that Western time zones, right? Whether it's the Mountain, the Pacific Standard, UCLA needs to prove here in U2 in the Big Ten, they can go win hours away, thousands of miles away from home. They do that, they might get a little bit more respect as to the location of their first round game. Can they earn that San Diego first round game against an East Coast team? Or are they going to get shipped to the East Coast again, where they're just going to see their season end thousands of miles away from home in the first weekend? Penn State, Ohio State, I said the Bruins will only go 1-2 between the Maryland, Penn State, Ohio State matchup. They beat Maryland, a winless, hurt, beat up Maryland team at home. What can they do on the road? They win those two games, build some momentum into a home game, which could be a sellout against Purdue. All of a sudden, UCLA is moving in the right direction. They still have some time to build that. We'll have more previews and projections for the men and the women in the next podcast. But next, UCLA announced a huge donation for the entire university, a significant chunk of $40 million going to men's basketball and football. And then we'll talk about some college football rule changes potentially coming next. There's nothing like the college football season. The tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all, with the energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, well, that can be the frustrating part, the long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Gametime gives the advantage back to you, the fans. The easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Open Gametime, you see what's coming up. You go from browsing to buying in just a few minutes because the app is super easy to use. You can see where you're sitting. Are you behind a pole like if you might be at Fenway or in Chicago at Wrigley? Or do you know where you're sitting? You're like, I like where I sit. I want to sit high up for this game. Or you want to sit closer. That's where you get that idea before you buy the tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets, any tickets, with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Cruising on here with Locked On UCLA. The big news coming from the UCLA Athletic Department, from the UCLA Athletic site themselves, is the fact that a late UCLA Bruin has given a significant gift to UCLA as a whole. A large chunk is going to the athletic department, specifically football and men's basketball. So the story posted by UCLA Athletics today, Larry Lane, a former UCLA grad, back in the late 70s. He was a coach, a former student athlete. He's donated to UCLA back for 6 decades. All right. Was a one-time enrollee at UCLA Anderson School of Management and wanted to be a part of the top-ranked rugby team under then coach Dennis Storr. So he's been a long-time donor for UCLA, gifting many gifts over a long time. So this is a $40 million bequest. $17.3 million going to UCLA football and men's basketball directly. $9.6 million to the football program, $7.7 million to the basketball program. This doesn't also include, here's the other parts that's going elsewhere. It's going to go $11.4 million to UCLA Health, which is supposed to help the research of cardiology and hepatology. You got $5.7 million to the UCLA Anderson School of Management. And then you've got men's rugby, we'll get $3.8 million. And you've also got $1.9 million to UCLA Center for the Art of Performance. He's been donating for a long time, helped donate initially to the Women's Rugby Club to get that started way back in the late 70s. So he has been credited with almost 100 donations, over $18.8 million leading up to this. And out of nowhere, with this late gift from the late, great Larry Lane, got to thank him for this huge donation. What just kind of shows the shift in narrative to people who are maybe not, we're not talking about Larry specifically, but I know just people in smaller doses who are tired of the wooden athletic funds, tired of the rising football tickets, season tickets costs, what you got to spend just to even get in line to buy tickets to go to the Rose Bowl or wherever they're going to play. How UCLA has become very apathetic to the Chip Kellys of the previous years, to now Mick Cronin, to now just simply a new chancellor who put together a coaching search committee, former Bruins players, bright minds in the UC Regents, and all of a sudden the Bruins put in a young winner, which was the report. They wanted a winner. They found Bob Chesney, who's won, and it's just a great coaching mind, which will give us a guy that we want to cheer for, the understanding of what we want as a UCLA football program, and that's what the Bruins are building in this new day and age of college football. And now we're starting to see the support, the donations coming in. And now not everybody's going to go out there and just drop 20 million, 40 million for the whole university. No. But you can see the uptick in some generosity in some cases. And obviously Larry Lane's connection is a lot deeper in various aspects in terms of what he's given in generosity. But just the support overall seems to be growing. I can feel it. I'm hyped. I hope you're hyped. It doesn't need 17 million out of our own pockets to do so. But this is also, we're seeing a change. The Indianas of the world didn't get a Mark Cuban until lately. And he's a big alumnus, big time. UCLA is trying to build up the campus, but now these are huge numbers going directly into Mick Cronin's program's pockets and into Bob Chesney's program's pockets to rebuild the facilities, to fund what they need to get, whether it's coaching, NIL opportunities. I'm not sure where that $9 million is going to go to, but that is a huge gift and that is a huge donation. All right. Now, we don't need to be putting up all that money ourselves necessarily, but man, that is a huge donation. And we thank the late, great Larry Lane who gifted that. That's a stunning amount in terms of the shifting narrative. UCLA doesn't have what it takes. They're building from the fan base to the alumni to the coaching to the support, top to bottom, and then it spreads out to the community. That's what they're trying to do. You got to showcase your care at the top, put the right people underneath, get the right people in charge who have the vision, and then all of a sudden it spreads out. And now we care a lot more and should be energetic a lot more. The other rule that's changing in college football on this day and age, yeah, David Ubben, who writes for The Athletic, there's the AFCA convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of football coaches at the FBS level met. Sometimes there's rule changes. The biggest one this year is being this one-time portal window in the winter, January only. No more shifting around of spring portals, no more grad transfers transferring out of nowhere. That's where this came from. Now, the FBS coaches, according to Ubben, is expanding the redshirt year potentially from 4 games to 9 games. So imagine in college football, you can play 4 games. Bowl games don't even count. 4 games at any point in the season and still keep your redshirt year. Some people get really finite about, all right, can I get that 5th game and still be hurt? And what happened? And we're seeing more and more guys suing for that extra year to get big bucks in NIL because they popped off in year 4, year 5, whatever medical year you got, right? You got Siala Taupaki, who just went to Penn State. He's got like 8 years of college football. John Vaughn's played 6 years. And now the FBS coaches are recommending that the Division I committee says your redshirt can play 9 games, which is 75% of the games before deciding to redshirt. You can play a whole season basically, start off injured, end the season injured, have been a reason why your team gets to the playoff, been a reason why your team wins the championship in some cases, and that doesn't even count. Imagine you go through the playoff run, which say you play 4 playoff games, championship games, so that's 5. You play the last 4 of the regular season, which used to mean that was your redshirt year. No, you could play all those games, and that won't affect your redshirt. You could play a championship game, conference championship game, playoff games, last 4 of the regular season, and that wouldn't affect your redshirt. And you could be somebody who just blossomed in the last month and got red hot at any position, kicker, quarterback, running back, somewhere, lineman, who jumped in, wasn't expected to play, and became a key starter for a team that needed somebody to step up in the wake of injuries. You come in, that starter who got hurt through 9 games can get backed up by a guy that can play the next 9 games, and all of a sudden, both those guys can redshirt if that gets officially put in. That is what the FBS coaches are recommending after this AFCA convention in Charlotte, according to David Ubben of The Athletic, who covers college football. Now, that seems a little ridiculous. College basketball, 1 minute on the game, you burn your red shirt. Some other sports, you can play close to 30%, not play any conference games to burn your red shirt. Baseball, softball, basketball, that's not the case. Football, you can play the whole dang season, apparently. We're not at 5 for 5. 5 years of eligibility for 5 years of playing, which would probably eliminate red shirts, medical, non-playing, but we're not there yet. So you're basically at a 4+1. We'll see how that affects things with guys that have extra years of eligibility, guys that are currently on the roster, if that gets implemented, who could stay an extra year or 2, and how they could fix this is the transfer portal. But in this ever-evolving landscape of college football, college athletics, who's going to implement it? How's it going to affect everybody? And how does that affect the current players and the future ones, while the past players are still frustrated they didn't get their big bucks? Fun times in college sports, which is why you should like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support here on Locked On UCLA. Become an everydayer. Join the Everydayer Club, the Locked On Podcast Network, #1 sports podcast network out there. Join the fun, contribute, be part of a Locked On UCLA community, have some fun, and thanks for your support. In the meantime, hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.